In the dead of night, when shadows dance and floorboards creak, there are names that should never be spoken aloud. Names that have haunted our nightmares for decades. Names like Michael, Freddy, Pennywise. But what transforms these characters from mere fictional monsters into legends of pure terror? What makes them so evil that even now, just hearing their names sends chills down your spine? Tonight, we're diving into the twisted minds of cinema's most diabolical killers. Fair warning, once you understand what drives these monsters, you might never sleep the same way again. Evil in horror movies isn't just about the body count, though trust me, these villains rack up impressive numbers. True cinematic evil lives in the complete absence of human empathy, the calculated psychological torture, and those twisted motivations that make your skin crawl. These aren't crimes of passion or desperate acts of survival. This is methodical, relentless, pure malevolence. Over the next few minutes, we're dissecting the most infamous examples of horror evil, the killers who don't just want to end your life, they want to destroy your soul first. So dim the lights, because class is now in session at Horror University. Michael Myers, the shape of pure evil. Let's begin with the shape himself, Michael Myers from Halloween. Picture this, a 6-year-old boy picks up a kitchen knife on Halloween night and brutally murders his teenage sister. No motive, no explanation, just evil. What makes Michael truly terrifying isn't his supernatural strength or that haunting white mask. It's a complete void where his humanity should be. Dr. Loomis called him purely and simply evil. And 4 to 5 years later, that diagnosis still chills audiences to the bone. Michael doesn't kill for revenge, pleasure, or even insanity. He kills because that's what he is. His evil incarnate walking among us. And the scariest part? He could be anyone behind that mask. Freddy Krueger, the dream demon. But what if evil could follow you into the one place you thought you were safe? Your dreams. Enter Freddy Krueger, the burned child killer who weaponized sleep itself. Freddy's backstory reads like a horror fan's worst nightmare, a child murderer who escaped justice on a technicality, only to be burned alive by vengeful parents. Death didn't stop him, it liberated him. Now he hunts teenagers in their dreams with his razor-fingered glove, turning the sanctuary of sleep into a torture chamber. What makes Freddy particularly sadistic is his twisted sense of humor. He doesn't just kill. He toys with his victims, crafting elaborate nightmare scenarios before delivering the fatal blow. In Freddy's world, death is just a punchline to a very sick joke. Pennywise, ancient hunger. Speaking of twisted humor, let's talk about something that should bring joy. Clowns. Stephen King took this symbol of childhood happiness and transformed it into our worst nightmare with Pennywise the dancing clown. This cosmic entity has been feeding on fear for millions of years, specifically targeting children because their terror tastes sweeter. Pennywise doesn't just kill randomly, it studies its prey, shape-shifting into their deepest fears before striking. The 1990 miniseries gave us nightmares, but 2017's interpretation revealed the true scope of Pennywise evil. This isn't just a monster, it's a force of nature that views humans the way we view cattle. Ancient, intelligent, and absolutely merciless. Hannibal Lecter, sophisticated evil. Now, what happens when evil was a three-piece suit in quotes classical literature? You get Dr. Hannibal Lecter, perhaps the most chilling villain ever put to screen. Lecter isn't your typical slasher. He's a brilliant psychiatrist, gifted surgeon, and accomplished chef who just happens to view humans as ingredients. What makes Hannibal terrifying is his refinement. He'll psychoanalyze you, critique your life choices, then serve you your own liver with a nice Chianti. Anthony Hopkins delivered the performance so convincingly that he won an Oscar for just 16 minutes of screen time. Lecter represents a monster that hides in plain sight, educated, cultured, and absolutely without conscience. Jason Voorhees, Undying Vengeance. From sophisticated evil to raw, unstoppable force, Jason Voorhees has been terrorizing Camp Crystal Lake since 1980. What started as a mother's revenge story transformed into something far more sinister when Jason rose from his watery grave. This machete-wielding juggernaut doesn't speak, doesn't reason, doesn't stop. It is driven by a simple but terrifying purpose. Punish anyone who dares enter his territory. Jason's evil lies in his relentlessness. You can't negotiate with him, can't appeal to his humanity, because he left his humanity at the bottom of Crystal Lake decades ago. He has become a force of nature, as inevitable as a hurricane and twice as deadly. Chucky, Innocence Corrupted. But perhaps the most disturbing evil comes in the smallest packages. Charles Lee Ray, the Lakeshore Strangler, used voodoo to transfer his soul into a good guy doll, creating Chucky, childhood innocence weaponized. There's something fundamentally wrong about a children's toy wielding a kitchen knife, and that wrongness taps into our deepest anxieties about trust and safety. Chucky represents a corruption of everything pure in our world. Where children should find comfort and joy, they instead find a potty-mouthed serial killer with button eyes and a stitched-on smile. The Child's Play franchise turned every parent's gift-buying decision into a potential nightmare. Leatherface, family values gone wrong. Speaking of family nightmares, let's discuss Leatherface from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. This hulking killer wears masks made from human faces and wields a chainsaw like a surgeon's scalpel. But Leatherface isn't just a random madman. He's a product of his environment, raised by a cannibalistic family that views outsiders as livestock. What makes Leatherface uniquely terrifying is that he genuinely believes he's protecting his family and way of life. In his twisted reality, tourists who wander onto his property aren't victims. They're dinner. This isn't evil born from trauma or supernatural forces. It's evil as cultural tradition, passed down through generations like a family recipe. Ghostface, evil anyone can wear. Finally, let's examine evil that literally anyone can wear. The Ghostface killer from Scream. Unlike our other villains, Ghostface isn't a single entity but a mantle passed between different killers across the franchise. This mask has been worn by jealous boyfriends, revenge-seeking mothers, film students, and even horror fans who become obsessed with their own movie. Ghostface represents a democratization of evil, the terrifying idea that your killer could be anyone, your friend, your lover, your family member. The Scream franchise brilliantly deconstructed horror tropes while creating new ones, proving that sometimes the most frightening monsters are one hiding behind a familiar face. So what do these iconic villains tell us about ourselves? Each represents a different facet of our collective fears: the evil that hides in plain sight, the corruption of innocence, the failure of institutions to protect us, and the terrifying randomness of violence. These characters endure because they tap into something primal, our understanding that evil isn't always rational, isn't always explainable, and definitely isn't always defeatable. They are modern mythological figures, cautionary tales wrapped in blood and screams. We watch these films not in spite of being terrified, but because being scared in a controlled environment helps us process the very real evils that exist in our world. Sweet dreams, horror fans. Now that we've pulled back the curtain on cinema's most diabolical minds, I have to ask, which of these villains do you think represents the purest form of evil? Is it Michael's emotionless brutality, Freddy's sadistic creativity, or perhaps Hannibal's refined cruelty? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the darkest corners of cinema. Until next time, remember, in horror movies, the real monsters aren't always the ones wearing masks. Sometimes, they're the ones who look just like us.